The automotive world is going through a moment that feels almost unreal, as one unexpected event has shaken the balance between powerful car manufacturers and independent creators. At the center of the situation are Mate Rimac, the CEO of Bugatti, and YouTuber Mat Armstrong, who has become a global name through his ambitious car rebuild projects. What started as just another rebuild video quickly turned into something much bigger when Armstrong managed to do what many believed was impossible. He split Bugatti Chiron in a regular garage using normal tools. This was not just a technical achievement. It directly challenged statements made by Bugatti's leadership, who had earlier suggested that such complex work could only be done inside their specialized facilities. Just days after Armstrong's video gained massive attention online, Mate Rimac released a video inviting people to visit Bugatti's factory and see how these hypercars are built. On the surface, it looked like a simple promotional video, encouraging fans to take a tour of the facility. However, the timing of this invitation made people suspicious. The internet quickly began connecting the dots, asking whether this was truly a normal marketing move or an indirect response to Armstrong's achievement. Viewers felt that this was not just a coincidence, but a subtle attempt by Bugatti to shift the narrative. Instead of directly addressing Armstrong's success, the company seemed to be saying, "Come see how difficult this really is," without actually saying it. This created a wave of discussion across social media, with fans, mechanics, and car enthusiasts debating what this really meant. Some believed Bugatti was trying to regain control of the situation, while others thought it was an indirect way of acknowledging Armstrong without admitting they were wrong. Either way, the situation quickly became more than just a car story. It turned into a battle of perception, where every move by Bugatti and Armstrong was being analyzed by millions of people around the world. What made this even more interesting was how quickly the public picked a side. Many viewers supported Armstrong, seeing him as a skilled and determined individual who challenged a powerful company and proved that knowledge and effort can sometimes beat corporate control. To fully understand why the situation became so big, it is important to look at what Mat Armstrong actually achieved and why it matters beyond just one car. Splitting a Bugatti Chiron is not like working on a normal vehicle. It is one of the most complex hypercars ever built, designed with extreme precision, advanced materials, and strict engineering standards. When Bugatti suggested that such work could not be done outside the facilities, it reinforced the idea that only the manufacturer has the knowledge and tools required for these cars. However, Armstrong's project told a completely different story. By carefully documenting every step, explaining his process, and showing the tools he used, he proved that with enough skill and patience, even the most advanced machines can be worked on outside official channels. This directly connects to a much larger issue known as the right to repair movement, which argues that owners should have the freedom to fix their own products without being forced to rely on manufacturers. Armstrong's rebuild became a real-world example of this idea in action. Millions of viewers watched as he worked through challenges, solved problems, and continued moving forward without official support from Bugatti. This created a powerful message that spread far beyond car enthusiasts. People who had never been interested in hypercars suddenly became invested in his journey. Not because they wanted to own a Bugatti, but because they saw this as a story of independence and determination. It felt like a classic underdog story, where one individual takes on a giant corporation and refuses to back down. As the videos gained more views, discussions started appearing everywhere, on YouTube, forums, and social media platforms. People began questioning why manufacturers limit access to parts, why repairs are so expensive, and whether these restrictions are really about safety or about maintaining control. Armstrong did not need to make any aggressive statements or criticize Bugatti directly. His work spoke for itself. Every successful step in the rebuild became proof that the company's earlier claims might not be as absolute as they seemed. This is what made the situation uncomfortable for Bugatti. It was not just about one car anymore. It was about their authority being challenged in front of a global audience. From Bugatti's perspective, this situation created a difficult challenge with no easy solution. On one hand, continuing to ignore Armstrong could make the company appear disconnected and unwilling to engage with the community. On the other hand, directly responding to him could be seen as admitting that their earlier statements were incorrect. This is where Mate Rimac's factory tour invitation becomes interesting. It sits somewhere in the middle, not a direct response, but not completely unrelated either. By inviting people to see the factory, Bugatti can show the complexity of their work and reinforce the idea that their cars require specialized knowledge. At the same time, they avoid mentioning Armstrong directly, which allows them to maintain their position without openly admitting fault. This kind of strategy is often used in corporate communication, where companies try to guide public perception without making bold statements. However, the audience today is much more aware and critical than in the past. People quickly recognized the timing and began interpreting the invitation as a response, even if it was not officially presented that way. This shows how much power the audience now has in shaping narratives. The comment sections under Bugatti's videos became filled with references to Armstrong, with many users pointing out the connection and questioning the company's intentions. Instead of shifting attention away from the rebuild, the invitation actually brought more focus to it. This created a situation where Bugatti's own content was being overshadowed by discussions about Armstrong. For a brand that carefully controls its image, this kind of shift can be uncomfortable. It shows that once a narrative takes hold, it is very difficult to change it. Armstrong's story had already captured the public's imagination, and any move by Bugatti was now being seen through that lens. Even a simple factory tour video could not escape the context created by his rebuild. While Bugatti tries to manage the situation, Mat Armstrong continues to move forward with his project, and that may be the most important factor of all. He has not changed his approach, has not become aggressive, and has not turned this into a personal conflict. Instead, he continues doing what made him successful in the first place, working on the car, documenting the process, and sharing it with his audience. This consistency is one of his biggest strengths. It keeps the focus on his work rather than on drama, even though the situation around him is full of it. By staying calm and professional, he maintains a strong position in the eyes of viewers. People trust him because he shows everything openly and does not rely on exaggerated claims. This creates a sharp contrast with the perception of large corporations, which are often seen as controlling and less transparent. Armstrong's independence is what makes his story powerful, and it is also what makes any potential collaboration with Bugatti complicated. If he accepts an invitation or works closer with the company, it could change how people see his journey. Some might feel that the underdog story has been weakened or that he is no longer fully independent. On the other hand, refusing any interaction keeps his position strong, but also limits potential opportunities for learning and collaboration. This creates an interesting question about what he should do next. From a strategic point of view, continuing independently seems to be the better choice for now. His audience is growing, his project is progressing, and his message is clear. He does not need Bugatti's approval to succeed. In fact, his success comes from proving that he can do this without them. This is what makes his story different from traditional automotive content. It is not just about fixing a car. It is about challenging an idea and showing that things can be done differently. In the end, this situation represents something much bigger than a single rebuild or a single company's response. It highlights a shift in how information, authority, and influence work in the modern world. A single creator with a camera in a garage can now challenge the claims of a global brand and reach millions of people instantly. This changes the balance of power in ways that were not possible before. Companies can no longer rely only on their reputation or their official statements. They have to engage with a more informed and critical audience that values transparency and proof. At the same time, creators like Mat Armstrong have more responsibility because their work can influence how people think about industries and practices. The story of the Bugatti Chiron rebuild is still ongoing, and its final outcome is not yet known. However, one thing is already clear. It has changed the conversation. Whether Bugatti chooses to engage more directly, adjust its policies, or continue its current approach, the impact of this moment will remain. For viewers, it serves as a reminder that expertise is not limited to large organizations, and that passion and dedication can lead to remarkable achievements. For the automotive world, it may mark the beginning of a new era where openness and accessibility become more important than exclusivity and control. And for everyone watching, it is simply a fascinating story, one that combines technology, business, and human determination in a way that keeps people coming back for more as the story continues to unfold. One of the most interesting developments is how the audience itself has become an active part of the narrative rather than just passive viewers. In the past, a situation like this might have remained within industry circles, discussed only by experts and insiders. But today, millions of people are watching, analyzing, and forming their own opinions in real time. Platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and social media have allowed viewers to break down every detail of Mat Armstrong's rebuild and every move made by Mate Rimac and Bugatti. This constant discussion has created a feedback loop where public opinion directly influences how the story is perceived. For example, when Bugatti released a factory tour invitation, it might have been intended as a simple promotional effort, but the audience quickly reframed it as a response to Armstrong. Comments, reactions, and analysis videos spread this interpretation widely, making it almost impossible for Bugatti to control the narrative. This shows how much the role of the audience has changed. People are no longer just consuming content. They are actively shaping it. They highlight inconsistencies, question motives, and bring attention to details that might otherwise go unnoticed. In Armstrong's case, this has worked strongly in his favor. His transparency and step-by-step documentation give viewers confidence in his work, and that trust turns into support. Meanwhile, Bugatti's more controlled and polished communication style feels less personal, which can make it harder to connect with the audience on the same level. This difference in communication styles creates a clear contrast between the two sides. Armstrong feels relatable and authentic, while Bugatti feels distant and corporate. As a result, even neutral actions by the company are often interpreted with skepticism. This is not necessarily because Bugatti is doing something wrong, but because the context has already been set by the rebuild story. Once people start viewing a situation through a certain lens, it becomes very difficult to change their perspective. This is why the audience reaction is such a powerful force in this story. It amplifies Armstrong's success and adds pressure on Bugatti, turning every small development into a major talking point. In many ways, the audience has become a third player in this situation, influencing how both sides are seen and how the story continues to evolve. Another important aspect of this situation is how it is affecting perception of luxury and exclusivity in the automotive world. Brands like Bugatti have built their identity around precision, rarity, and control. Their cars are not just vehicles. They are symbols of engineering excellence and status. Part of that image comes from the idea that these machines are so advanced that only the manufacturer fully understands them. This creates a sense of mystery and exclusivity that adds to their appeal. However, Mat Armstrong's rebuild challenges this idea in a very direct way. By taking apart and working on a Bugatti Chiron in a regular garage, he shows that these cars, while extremely complex, are still machines that can be understood and repaired outside official environments. This does not reduce their value or engineering brilliance, but it changes how people think about them. Instead of being seen as untouchable objects, they become something that skilled individuals can interact with and understand. This shift in perception can have long-term effects on how luxury brands position themselves. If more people start believing that independent experts can handle these cars, it could lead to increased demand for open access to parts, information, and repair options. At the same time, brands may need to find new ways to maintain their sense of exclusivity without relying on restrictions. This is a delicate balance. Too much openness could reduce the feeling of uniqueness, while too much control could lead to criticism and pushback from consumers. Armstrong's project sits right in the middle of this balance, forcing both the audience and the industry to rethink what exclusivity really means. Is it about limiting access, or is it about the quality and innovation of the product itself? This question does not have a simple answer, but it is becoming more important as stories like this gain attention. For Bugatti, this is not just about responding to one YouTuber. It is about adapting to a changing environment where information is more accessible and expectations are different. For viewers, it is an opportunity to see behind the curtain and understand how these incredible machines actually work, which makes the entire experience more engaging and meaningful. Looking ahead, the future of the situation depends on how both sides choose to move forward and how the story continues to develop in the public eye. Mate Rimac and Bugatti have several options, each with its own risks and benefits. They could decide to engage more directly with the community, perhaps by addressing the rebuild openly or by creating content that explains their perspective in more detail. This could help rebuild trust and show that the company is willing to have an honest conversation. However, It also carries the risk of drawing more attention to the issue and potentially reinforcing the narrative that they were wrong. Another option is to continue with their current approach, focusing on their own projects and avoiding direct confrontation. This may reduce immediate controversy, but it does not fully address the ongoing discussion, which means the narrative could continue without their input. On the other side, Mat Armstrong is in a strong position with more freedom to choose his path. He can continue documenting the rebuild, maintaining the same level of transparency and independence that has brought him success. He could also explore new opportunities that come from his increased visibility, such as collaborations or larger projects. The key for him will be to stay true to what made his content popular in the first place. If he becomes too influenced by external factors or changes his approach significantly, it could affect how his audience sees him. So far, his strength has been his consistency and authenticity, and maintaining those qualities will be important as the story continues. Ultimately, this situation is a reminder of how quickly things can change in the digital age. A single video can start a global conversation, challenge established ideas, and create opportunities for both individuals and companies to rethink their positions. The story of the Bugatti rebuild is still being written, and each new update adds another layer to it. Whether it ends with collaboration, continued independence, or something completely unexpected, it has already left a lasting impact. It has shown that passion, skill, and determination can capture the world's attention, and that even the most established brands must be ready to adapt when that happens as the rebuild continues to gain attention. Another layer of the story becomes clear: the role of influence and media power in shaping reputations. In the past, companies like Bugatti controlled almost every aspect of their public image through carefully planned marketing, exclusive events, and limited access to information. Their message was clear, polished, and rarely challenged on a global scale. But today, creators like Mat Armstrong have the ability to reach millions of viewers instantly, offering a completely different perspective that feels raw and unfiltered. This shift has changed how people decide what to believe. Instead of relying only on official statements, audiences now compare multiple sources, watch real processes unfold, and make their own judgments. Armstrong's videos do not just show results. They show the entire journey, including mistakes, challenges, and problem-solving moments. This level of detail builds trust in a way that traditional marketing often cannot. When viewers see something happen step by step, it feels real, and that authenticity is powerful. On the other hand, Bugatti's communication style, while professional and high quality, does not offer the same level of openness. This difference creates a gap in perception, where one side feels transparent and the other feels controlled. It is important to understand that this does not mean Bugatti is necessarily wrong, but it does mean that they are operating in a space where expectations have changed. Modern audiences value honesty and access, and they are quick to question anything that feels incomplete or overly polished. This is why the reaction to Mate Rimac's factory tour invitation was so strong. Even though it was a normal type of content for a brand like Bugatti, the audience interpreted it through the context created by Armstrong's rebuild. Every message is now being viewed as part of a larger story, whether intended or not. This highlights a key reality of today's media environment. Control is no longer absolute. Once a narrative starts spreading, it becomes shaped by the audience as much as by the people directly involved. For Bugatti, this means adapting to a new kind of communication landscape. For Armstrong, it means understanding the responsibility that comes with such influence. His work is not just entertainment anymore. It is part of a broader conversation that can affect how people see an entire industry. This adds weight to every decision he makes and every video he publishes. In the final analysis, this entire situation can be seen as a turning point that goes beyond cars, brands, or individual personalities. It represents a deeper shift in how knowledge, authority, and creativity interact in the modern world. The story of Mat Armstrong rebuilding a Bugatti Chiron and the response from Mate Rimac is not just about proving who is right or wrong. It is about showing that expertise can exist in many places, not just within large organizations. It is about demonstrating that passion and persistence can challenge established ideas and open new possibilities. For viewers, this makes the story inspiring because it shows that complex problems can be approached in different ways. For companies, it serves as a reminder that their position is not unchangeable and that they must stay connected to the communities that support them. As the rebuild moves closer to completion, the focus will likely shift from whether it can be done to what it means that it was done. That is where the real impact lies. If one person can achieve something that was considered impossible, it encourages others to think differently about their own limitations. At the same time, it pushes industries to become more transparent and adaptable. The final outcome of this story is still unknown, but its influence is already clear. It has sparked discussions, challenged assumptions, and brought attention to issues that might otherwise have remained unnoticed. In a world where content is created and shared at an incredible speed, moments like this stand out because they combine real skill with real consequences. They are not just stories. They are examples of change happening in real time. And as people continue to watch, comment, and share their thoughts, the story keeps growing, evolving with every new update. Whether it ends with cooperation, continued independence, or a completely unexpected twist, one thing is certain. It has already changed how people see both creators and corporations, and that impact will not fade anytime soon as the story continues to evolve. One more important factor comes into focus: the long-term impact on future creators and the next generation builders. What Mat Armstrong is doing today is not happening in isolation. Thousands of young mechanics, engineers, and content creators around the world are watching closely, learning from his process, and being inspired by his confidence to take on complex challenges. In the past, many people believed that working on high-end vehicles like the Bugatti Chiron was something reserved only for official technicians trained by the manufacturer. That belief created a kind of barrier, where aspiring builders felt that certain levels of skill or access were simply out of reach. Armstrong's project is slowly breaking that barrier. By showing every step openly, he is not just completing a rebuild, he is educating a global audience. Viewers can see how problems are approached, how tools are used, and how patience plays a key role in complex work. This kind of content has a ripple effect. Someone watching today might start learning basic mechanics tomorrow, and in a few years, they could be working on advanced projects of their own. This is how industries evolve over time. Not just through large companies, but through individuals who share knowledge and push boundaries. For Bugatti and other manufacturers, this shift presents both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is that more people will question restrictions on repairs and access to parts. The opportunity, however, lies in embracing this new wave of interest and turning it into a positive relationship with the community. Instead of seeing independent builders as a threat, companies could view them as passionate supporters who expand the reach of their brand. Imagine a future where manufacturers provide structured support for independent creators, offering guidance, access to information, or even partnerships while still maintaining safety standards. That kind of approach could change the entire relationship between companies and consumers. Armstrong's journey is already pointing in that direction, even if it was not the original intention. It shows that knowledge shared openly can create more interest, more innovation, and more appreciation for craft. In the long run, this could lead to a more open and collaborative automotive culture, where the gap between official and independent work becomes smaller at the same time. It is important to recognize that situations like this are rarely simple, and there are valid concerns on both sides that need to be understood. While Mat